We are joined by one of the world's leading creative drummers. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hi, Antonio. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
Surviving in the rain.
Yeah, it is a rainy day today in Portugal. You've been playing here for a long time. How would you describe the shows in Portugal? Are they particular in any way?
I first played here in maybe 90 or 91 with Carlos Bica. And I think at that time, the music we were doing, we were sort of like space aliens that had landed musically in old little Lisbon at that time. The response was sort of mixed, like, what is this? Half repulsion, half fascination. Through the years, his fan base grew, and I mean, now it's a completely different story here. Also at that time, like maybe in 96, 97, I started coming here with other American bands like Tim Burns' Blood Count. Last No Access played here maybe 99 or 98, I think. Different cities in Portugal. So my relationship to it is quite strong. I love this country. I fell in love with it immediately when I first visited. Carlos used to take me down to Zambujeira do Mar to hang out, and I think I've been there every year for the past 20-something years. It's an important place, and I make sure I get here at least once a year to hang out.
You mentioned a curious description of you guys being perceived as aliens. Isn't that? I've heard that before.
Space aliens is different.
Space aliens.
Stranger.
Isn't that a description that fits the best of music? Would you say? Or the best of musicians, I mean.
It's funny because if something is personal and unique, and I think our music is even more personal now, it's going to strike people in different ways. It's not for maybe mass consumption. Not everybody's going to love it right away. Some people respond to it faster than others. It's pretty far-flung in Lisbon now, or I should say in Portugal, in terms of the taste. There's a lot of people that are into the more extreme styles of improv, or people that maybe like more Carlos Bica's types of songs and stuff, but we mash that together with spontaneous composition and things like that. So it seems like the palette, maybe we're definitely not so weird anymore. There's many more people who would maybe fit that description than us. As long as I think people are being unique, being themselves musically, then you can do no wrong, because that's what I want to buy. That's what I want to go see. Mm-hmm. And we don't need any more musicians in the world that are just okay. Mm-hmm. We need people with voices, and their voices, and so it's their job to figure out how to develop that.
Do you believe a musician has to know what he's bringing to the table prior to starting a musical career, do you think?
No, because it's sort of like learning anything. How do you know until you try? You have to see if it resonates with you. And so I would encourage anybody to go after any passion. Passion is the one thing that will enable you to survive this. You're not doing it for the money. It's nice to be able to survive from it if you can, but it's not a guarantee. You do it because you love it, because you have to. If the passion's strong enough and the commitment and the desire is so strong, it almost doesn't matter what it sounds like, because people will feel the strength of it. The path of figuring out who you are as a person is totally parallel to the path of figuring out who you are as a musician, and this takes time. Some people have it right away, but even my friends that seem brilliant early on, they change. They find other more deep connections inside themselves.
What about Trio Azul? How did that come about? It's been around for a while.
I met Frank Mobus at Berkeley. I think we both graduated in '89, and he brought me to Europe for the first time then, and I really liked staying in Europe, and I think I've been here most of my adult life traveling versus living in New York, where I spend my other months of the year. Next year in '90 or 90, I think it was in '90, he introduced me to Carlos, who was studying classical bass in Würzburg. And he brought us down here for the first time to play Hot Club and another bar I can't remember. Carlos liked the danger of taking his songs, which were more, nice, almost romantic sometimes, and adding that edge to it, adding another dimension to color it in different ways without, destroying it or pushing it over.
I think it's safe to say that Alas No Axis is your main vehicle now?
It's one of my main groups. I only have two that I'm directly leading, Alas No Axis and this trio that's playing here in Lisbon. But I'm still playing with a trio with Nels Klein and Tim Byrne called BB&C, Uri Kane's projects, a band called Pachora, which plays Bulgarian music, old friends, a band called Endangered Blood, with more friends from Brooklyn and stuff, Chris Speed, Oscar Noriega, Trevor Dunn. So it's hard to say what main means, but as far as when it's time for me to write music, I'm writing for this piano trio and Alas No Axis. We just finished a new CD, which will actually come out on LP in March. So
March.
Yeah.
You mentioned all those outfits you play with. I've listened to some, but not all of them. Like I've listened to Pachora, I've listened to the trio, and Alas No Axis. But what sets them apart, you think, from each other?
Well, the only reason to make another project or even play in another project at this point, because there's such little free time to have a normal life, as one would call that. The music has to have a reason to exist, and I think in all those bands, there must be something unique about what we're doing compositionally, musically, the chemistry between the band. For example, Chris Speed's Yeah No and Alas No Axis and Pachora, you change one person, you have all three bands. But we don't feel like that when we play together. The music calls the shots. So that's really the reason why it exists. We can just play with the same players sometimes because we're open-minded and able to hear different music. Or in the case of this piano trio with Elias Demaseder and today Chris Tordini on bass, that's an opportunity for me to write more jazz rhythm, jazz harmony, other strange rhythmic influences in a quiet setting. The opposite of Alas No Axis, which is all rock sound and distortion. And even BB&C with Nels Klein and Tim Byrne, that's just a thrash fest, full on. And that doesn't really go there in any other projects right now. So it's important that that exists too.
still have some swing in your music?
That's what this trio is about. For me, was the impetus to write something that was more jazz-oriented in terms of feel. What is jazz to me? A Last No Access isn't. I don't hear the swing in it. So I put the swing in this trio. It still is still made up of songs and different types of harmonies. They're pretty more jazz-based. I wrote it all on piano. Alas, I write all the music on guitar. This trio wanted something not so literal, but still with, like, what can you do with swing rhythm that would expand it for me? You know, that is around that feel, around that vibe, but is not that. Exactly. It's someone else's music, you know? When does swing start to sound like swing? When does jazz not sound like jazz, or like what we want, throwing around words like that? But to me, it's swing rhythm. That's all it is, really, to me. If you talk about jazz, you're talking about swing rhythm in all its possible shapes and forms. A lot of them we haven't even found yet, so there's a ways to go. We'll see.
The first time I listened to you playing, it became immediately apparent to me that you had a very great amount of attention to detail. Everything is full of intent and is very sophisticated in a way. Like, no, you're welcome. Is it hard avoiding going through the motions as a musician?
I think so. I mean, I'm trying to fight all my good and yet at the same time not useful drum conditioning of my entire life. I'm trying to throw it all away and only play exactly what I'm hearing, what I need to, things that my body wants to do before, the brain starts working. And I'm getting closer. Every year, every month it gets better. It's a very personal evolution in terms of what one hears. What do you really want to play, not what you were trained to play. So yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people have to deal with. There's nothing wrong with playing what you've learned until it doesn't feel honest, until it doesn't feel like, I didn't really mean that. I started feeling a disconnect between what I could do and what I wanted to do, or what I really wanted to say when I was playing, or how to accompany somebody, or destroy something, and these things. Then it's a process of shedding your good habits, your well played skills, as you may call it, and realizing that maybe you could say a lot with just a few notes in the right place. It's the opposite of always having to make it happen. It's more about leaving more space and allowing your ear to say, what would sound good right now? So you can have more control, more intent behind every stroke. And for drums, it's hard because it's not the nature of the instrument socially. We're designed to play beats and back up people and do different things. So it takes an extra effort for us to find a way to, how can we still do that, yet open it up? And I pretty much grew up on Jimi Hendrix and Zeppelin. Miles Davis came after then, and then it was back to Nirvana and Soundgarden and...
Miles Davis with the fusion bit.
No, I didn't like that stuff. I was going more for the swing, more for the Tony Williams and that type of sound. I didn't listen to the fusion stuff until a little bit later, and even more the recent stuff, not the '70s. That drove me crazy for some reason. It was too weird for me. My heroes in music, like drummers like Jack DeJohnette or Paul Motion. Many others that I could go on and name, but those two guys when I was young, they had a way of playing all the great drum stuff, drum music, and yet finding a way that was so them, that let a lot of music in through the spaces. They would leave more room for that. They would play unorthodox things Not, I think, just to be unorthodox, but just because like that's a musical gesture that matches the piano or matches the guitar or matches the horn. So can I find that in my own writing, in my own music, with the chemistry of my groups? And so we go for it. I love the drums. I've been playing them my whole life, but I wish that thing could do a little more what a sax did some days. So you have to trick it out of it. You have to trick, anybody has to trick their instrument into expressing what they want to express.
Some of my favorite drummers, I've heard them say that they aim to express themselves through drumming in ways of other instruments. I mean, like for instance, having this sort of approach to the drums as if it were a piano, or trying to connect the drumming to notes which are being played in the rest of the music. Do you feel that as well?
Well, it's up to you. It's up to one to translate that information. I mean, the drums are not a piano, and it will not play a B flat major scale no matter how much you think it can. It's going to fall short. So, what is melody on the drum set? How can you be melodic? How can you be harmonic, rhythmic? How can you demonstrate color and tone and timbre, which is amazingly what that instrument naturally does. It's a timbre generator, tone generator. Literal translations are tough for me. It's more like, what does this animal do, and how far can I push it to the left or the right to have it make more music that comes closer to when I want a melody. But it ain't going to be it's not going to be the melody on the piano. I've tried. It doesn't work for me. Maybe others have it.